Welcome, and thanks for joining us for our webinar discussion about how to break through those backup headaches for MSPs and VARs. I'm Trista Perot, Marketing Director for Global Data Vault, and I'm thrilled to have these great speakers with us today. But before we launch, I have just a couple of quick housekeeping items for you. If you need to leave the webinar early, it's okay. We're going to have it available on replay, and it'll automatically send to you. We're also going to keep the chat dialogue open. So if you have any questions during the presentations, go ahead and throw them in there, and we will definitely answer those. We have a couple of people in there who can also help answer them during the presentation if we don't pose them up to the speaker. And that would be Kelly Colwell, who's product marketing for Global Data Vault, Leslie Ferris, who's territory manager for Global Data Vault. So as for our speakers today, I'm going to kick it off by briefly introducing Will Bassich, the Global Data Vault CEO. And Will specifically will not let me tell you how long ago he co-founded Global Data Vault, but I can tell you that he's practically a historian for the evolution of backup and recovery. He is and continues to encourage his team to be forever focused on the cutting edge of the best solutions. Will's leadership and commitment to solving problems for customers, team members, and vendors is demonstrated in everything that he does, enabling us at Global Data Vault to provide the best value and most secure disaster recovery solutions for our customers. Will, can you tell us a little about who we are and who our speakers are today?
Sure, Trista. Thank you for that introduction that was not in the pre-rehearsed version of this, but it's very nice nonetheless. Yes, I am Will Bassich. I am CEO and co-founder of Global Data Vault. We provide backup and disaster recovery services as well as backup for Office 365 and probably the most advanced solution for protecting our customers from ransomware, all in a super secure environment built around the mindset that it's always our problem, which means to us that we're focused on the result that we're going to be able to deliver. Because if you become our customer after some time and you've been our customer for weeks or months or years, and an event occurs where you need a recovery, it doesn't matter. If we can't deliver, it doesn't matter why. It does nobody any good to go to say, oh, well, it was Microsoft's fault. So we're always focused on what we're going to be able to deliver, and we report on that, and that's our focus on quality and our mindset of it's always our problem. So today I'm going to introduce a couple of guys that I have known for a very long time. Nick Scholle is CIO of Technology Pointe, a managed service provider here in Texas, with operations in both the Austin area and the Dallas area. Nick is one of the brightest tech guys that we work with across a wide spectrum of customers and vendors and the like, and always a super pleasant guy to work with and incredibly helpful. So he draws on a rich background of experience, and will be helping explain what we do in that context today. And then also Brian Brignac. Brian is our Director of Sales. Brian brings both a technical and operations background, so as well as the leadership role as his role is as Director of Sales, helping lead our customers and our resellers to solutions for their end user customers, giving them a vision of how we solve all these problems. So with that, I thank everyone who's on the webinar today and the attendees, and I will hand it over to Brian.
Thanks, Will, and thank you, Nick, for joining us. And Trista, thank you for the warm welcome and our guest in the intro. We want to talk a little bit, and we're going to, we introduce Nick Scholle from Tech Pointe. So Nick, why don't you just go ahead and just cover some of the things that, the background, a little bit of history about Tech Pointe, and then we'll just go ahead and proceed from there.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting me here today. It's a pleasure to sit down and speak with you guys, and thanks for that kind introduction, Will. A little bit behind Technology Pointe. We've been in business since 2000, so we just celebrated the 20-year anniversary. And like Will said, we're pretty much spread across Texas, but primarily have clients in Round Rock and Austin, Dallas. a little over 2,100 endpoints under our management, and specialize in a few different industries that we excel in, and those are architectural, engineering, construction, manufacturing, and finance firms.
Good. I appreciate it, Nick, for giving us those details. So look, we want to talk a little bit about, Global Data Vault and Tech Point, how we became partners, a little bit of background. So, Global Data Vault, we've been doing this for about 17 years. We've used a vast array of disaster recovery and backup products over the years. We were once also a StorageCraft platinum provider. And we know the limitations and the hurdles that we had to overcome using StorageCraft. And then about 7 years ago, we moved over to Veeam and realized it was definitely the more superior product. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and kind of give it back to you. And then you can kind of just give us a little bit of background, elaborate a little bit more on how you guys came to become a Veeam partner. And then, of course, the outsourcing to Global Data Vault and how that relationship has benefited Technology Pointe. So
Yeah.
with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you.
Certainly. So just like you guys, I mean, we have a little bit of knowledge of Veeam. We were using it internally for all of our hosted client servers, but with our managed backup solution, we were still deploying StorageCraft. And dealing with Veeam internally, we realized how easy and more efficient and effective it is, doing backups, restores, replicating, that we just simply didn't have that same experience with deploying StorageCraft out in the field to our clients. And so, we really hit a turning point that we needed to make a change and definitely make things a lot easier for ourselves and for our clients. So.
Sure. Yep. We can definitely relate to that. So now, look, let's just kind of get into a little bit, about the decision-making process. I know you guys were doing everything in-house, from, running Veeam locally to the end users, running your own data center, paying, the power, the internet connectivity, the personnel to maintain and monitor what you are currently doing. How has Global Data Vault benefited you guys by, outsourcing that offsite storage, offsite data center to a third party?
Yeah, you guys have been tremendously beneficial in essentially us decommissioning our entire DR Colo. So our primary location, our primary site is in Austin, Texas, and then we had a second Colo space rented out in Dallas that we were just using specifically for DR. So back in, I'd say late 2019, we were looking at renewing our Colo space, purchasing some more hardware because we were getting low on space, and also renewing our Veeam licensing. And so we thought it was the perfect opportunity to reach out to you guys.
Perfect. We get that call all the time, and it's not specific to the data center, but we have a lot of custom MSPs and VARs that have some endpoint that the customers, some do data center, but most of them do come to realize that it's much more cost effective to outsource that to experts that do that every day. So with that, we talked about the hardware and so forth. So let's just kind of cover, a little bit about the licensing model and in the Veeam, how by going with Global Data Vault, you basically wrapped everything under one umbrella for you guys. And it's because, again, it's not just about buying hardware, software, and storage. It's the other tangibles that go along with that.
Yeah, I mean, in getting rid of our DR Colo space, we got rid of the cost of renting the space itself, the connectivity coming in, managing that hardware on a yearly basis, keeping hard drives in stock, going and swapping out disks when they failed. And then we were also doing perpetual licensing internally. And when you kind of look at it, as many servers that we host, and that was a pretty substantial cost. So we're talking about $6,000 a year in just licensing costs. And so we had about 70 terabytes of storage that we were using for offsite, and we were getting pretty close to the top of that. So we were looking at another substantial expense in expanding that storage.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. So not only, you didn't have to, write the big check to Veeam, repurpose hardware every 3 to 5 years. Let's talk a little bit about the personnel that it took to actually monitor, manage, and maintain all your clients where, by outsourcing it to Global Data Vault, how has that freed up you guys to focus more on your deliverables to your customer?
It's been great. Previously we had one back end guy that was just kind of dedicated to watching our backups on a daily basis and troubleshooting and tracking down issues and working with StorageCraft or working with other vendors trying to get all of this stuff sorted out. And so this guy is not a backup expert. He's an engineer at heart. So while he was in that role, we could utilize him in other projects like onboarding and some of our other service offerings that we have. So in leveraging GDV to manage not only our internal backups, but our clients' backups too on-prem, it's been great. We reach out to you guys when we have an issue. You're able to jump in right away and really troubleshoot the problem and get it fixed quickly.
Perfect. All right. Thanks. So look, we know people come to us, they're getting those Veeam reports, they're very long, they're very, detailed. They give you way more information. So, we understood the pain that they were feeling because a lot of people get complacent with those emails and things just kind of, get pushed to the side or on the back burner. So with Global Data Vault, we are now giving you that one single pane view. Or web-based portal where you can actually go in there, and we try to just simplify things, giving you the facts, the most important details of your backup and DR as far as, the list of servers, are they within SLA? Is the local and the remote matched up where they're both successful and are in SLA? So I hope, you see the benefit of that. And if you want to just kind of give us a little bit about, the reporting and the daily emails that come to you compared to what you were getting previously just using the Veeam reporting.
Yeah. So, previously it was kind of an ad hoc reporting model. We had tickets that would be opened up on broken jobs and et cetera, and you really had to log in locally and see what was the problem with that job. So having a web portal that we can log into has been fantastic. What I like the most is just getting a daily email on each of my clients that are off-siting to you and being able to tell, when the last time it was that it backed up, when it was sent off-site, and whether or not it was green or red.
Yep.
If we have any sites that's having issues, I'm able to shoot that over to the support team and get an answer pretty quickly on it. But we love being able to just quickly glance at an email and know that we're covered.
Yep, we hear that a lot. So, and that was the focus of us when we started giving these reports to our customers. That it's short, it's precise, and it's detailed, giving you the most important information. So, thanks for sharing that. We also do monitoring, from an RMM tool, whether you have your own backup storage or we supply that. So we have all these hooks that also, excuse me, instead of just having monitoring, having all these other things being watched as far as firmware, patching, and so forth. Excuse me. So that's just some of the things that we tried to incorporate over the years, as we grew in this organization. Let's just talk a little bit about the status report that we just covered with Nick. This screenshot really just, again, it's very precise and to the point. It shows the total number of servers and the storage that is protecting. And then you can see on the top part of the graph, if it's a physical or virtual, these are all V. And we focus more on the SLA. Are you within SLA in the event something horrible goes wrong? And that's where the column with LOC and REM come into play. And you can see it says yes. So that means the local side and the remote side are all within the SLA, and everything is successful. If anything was failing, it would be red. So even though you may, like when you first came to us, you owned your own Veeam licensing and became a customer, we still want to know what's happening locally, because whatever's happening locally is going to translate to the cloud. And if it's failing there, it's going to fail offsite. So that's why, we send the reports, it's monitored by our NOC engineers. And you're right. When you see something, you just respond back to that email that you get. It generates a ticket. We'll start working that ticket to help you resolve that problem. And at the bottom of the graph, and we'll get a little bit more into detail on this, but it's just showing our extra layer of protection for our customers, which we call enhanced data protection. But we're going to get into that a little bit more in a few more slides. So with that, let's talk a little bit about some of the recoveries you guys had to do when something horrible has happened. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass it back off to you, Nick, and just kind of give us, tell us a story, a little scenario that you guys have run across when you have become a customer of Global Data Vault, and how do we take over and solve the day?
Sure. So being in this business and we get file level restores from our clients, on a daily basis, and so we, we'll do local recoveries. We've done cloud recoveries from you guys all the time, and so we know that works very well. But there's one case that about a year ago, one of our construction clients was actually hit with a crypto ransomware virus that kind of spread rampant throughout their environment. We found that their file server was actually affected. All of the files were encrypted. Unfortunately, the local repository for their Veeam backups also ended up being encrypted. But thankfully, we had those offsite backups stored at GDV that we were able to recover from. And so, in the old StorageCraft world, we would have been taking data from our data center, copying it to a drive or a server, driving over there, doing a bare metal recovery, which could have, this would have taken hours, if not even just days, to recover the server, and then making sure everything's back up and running. But the real winner here is when we were able to recover from GDV's cloud through Veeam, we went through the steps, picked the quick recovery or the quick rollback model inside of Veeam, scanned it for malware, boom, it was up and running within an hour on their file server. And that makes us look great. It makes you guys look great, and kind of a win-win situation for everyone.
Yep. How long would this have taken you guys with StorageCraft?
What was that?
How long would this have taken you guys to recover everything in StorageCraft?
I don't even want to think about that. it probably would have taken the whole day, or if not 2 days, probably, to get everything recovered.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for that. So we talked, you mentioned everything was, hacked locally on the local repository, and you had to recover. So that's the one good thing about, with Global Data Vault. Again, we focus on that local side. Most of the other providers will say, that's your responsibility. We're just going to be responsible for the cloud side. We don't take that approach. We take that approach that it's always our problem. So we want to know what's going on locally, and if we see something, or the end user or the MSP as a customer, we reach out to us so we can resolve that problem. So when something happens, we're not trying to sit there and make excuses. So we want to know. That's why we want to monitor that local side of the customer. So let me just elaborate a little bit about what transpired with your customer and what we see on a weekly basis. Global Data Vault. These hackers have gotten really sophisticated. They're getting better and better at these attacks. So the anatomy of what happens is, the ransom attack goes in, and if they gain, those domain admin credentials or that local access, they had the keys to the kingdom at that point. They attack the local repository, then they understand that if there's an offsite backup and they cannot get to that and encrypt it or delete it, they're never going to get paid. So they're focused on trying to log in, see what they could find offsite, and then do their encryption at that point. But Global Data Vault has come up with what we call enhanced data protection. So it's taken a few things. It's taken Veeam Insider Protection, and then we're wrapping that with some software as a service from a partner that we have joined parties with to kind of better that protection, gives you that extra layer. So I mean, basically, what happens, they try to delete that. If that ever is the case, Global Data Vault has this invisible copy, which is essentially that air gap technology that it's not visible to them. It's not even visible to the MSP like yourself. It's only to the cloud provider. So in the event something gets deleted or encrypted, Global Data Vault always has that ability to get that data recovered back to our customer. So that's why we've taken some of the Veeam technology. We've developed our own internal tools and kind of came up with enhanced data protection, which has become something that is very valuable because, again, if they get inside, get access to the offsite repository, and they delete it or encrypt it, and we don't have that means to recover, there's nothing we can do. So let's just talk a little bit about the different types. Veeam does backup, does DR, replication. Replication, RTO, RPO is as short as 15 minutes on the local side. And then we have a standard SLA, whether it's either via Cloud Connect or on replication. And we can cover those more into details, and some may ask some questions about that. So let's just kind of get into some of the other things that we offer our MSP partners and VARs. We do quarterly DR testing. It's an automated process. It does a spin up, a ping test, bottleneck test, and we generate a report. We hand that off to the customer, and that's available to have done quarterly. We also offer an annual DR test free of charge. It's highly encouraged. We want to do that and understand the customer's environment. Is there certain ports and credentials for applications and for databases? We want to address all these things prior to having a disaster, that where we're not jumping through hoops and trying to jump through hurdles to get this done. So it's highly encouraged. That is offered to all of our customers, whether it's end user or an MSP. And it is highly encouraged that our customers or VARs, MSPs take advantage of that. I'm going to go ahead and let you do a little bit of the talking about the licensing model, because you mentioned earlier you guys are writing a big check for $6,000 a year for Veeam, and then we had the discussion on what's right for you. Do you want to continue to write that as OpEx versus CapEx? And you guys chose to allow Global Data Vault to do our MSP licensing, where we supply all the licensing and just roll everything into one expense. So what was the determining factor for you guys, Nick, to make that decision? And then down the road, we're going to talk a little bit more about the differences, but just go ahead and tell us, what drove you guys' decision to go with all CapEx model?
Yeah, so it's been insanely easy dealing with licensing. Like, I can't thank you guys enough. With us going through vendors, some of the big names, it can kind of turn into like pulling teeth whenever you're having to go back and negotiate price, and then they have to negotiate with their software vendor and et cetera. And so, we're in that CapEx model, we're tied to a 1-year commitment or a 3-year commitment on licensing, and that's not even just internal. We're pushing out Veeam, and we're getting rid of StorageCraft for all of our clients too. And so instead of going to perpetual licensing for all of our clients and getting them to commit to a yearly renewal or anything like that, it's been fantastic being able to wrap your monthly rental license into our managed backup solution for our clients, because we don't require any commitments. You know,
Sure.
we do backups on a monthly basis for our clients as well. So being able to white label your solution, we deliver it to the client. It's just been great. I mean,
Yeah. So if you had 10 customers and they had 10 different instances of Veeam, you guys are writing 10 different checks to pay for their licensing.
yeah, and keeping track of renewal dates and et cetera, it's a nightmare.
Yep. Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about, Global Data Vault and the licensing model. So um, we can do, referral, wholesale. The difference is, like you guys chose to go wholesale, where we just supply the licensing, all the storage, the services, DR as a service, and you guys, are marking it up and reselling it to your customers. That is the majority of what our customers do. But we have some that also, say, hey, you know what? I want to control the billing, or let Global Data Vault control the billing, I should say. And it's a referral model. They refer us the customer. We close the deal. We supply the licensing, the service, and then we just pay them a monthly commissions. And that works well for some of the smaller ones. And then also, we want to be flexible. And even if it's a mixture, some MSPs say, hey, we want to do it wholesale. We have some customers that choose to deal with the vendor directly, and we have those as well. So we can accommodate whichever method, I should say, fits their need best. So we're very flexible in doing those. So let's go as far as troubleshooting and the way your environment is running. In the event there's a hiccup or you need to pull logs, how is Global Data Vault a benefactor for you guys to be able to, be the trusted advisor, be the experts? What do you see as the benefits, by partnering with somebody like Global Data Vault?
Yeah, I mean, being a Veeam engineer myself, or certified myself, I used to know Veeam inside and out, and so it was really easy for me to troubleshoot issues and fix them as they came up. But as we're growing and bringing on more clients, it's something that I shouldn't focus on anymore. And so being able to rely on Global Data Vault's support team has just been tremendous. I mean, there's tons of things that have changed over the last couple of years since I got my certification that they know, and every time I call them, I learn something, and so it's been great. I know you guys actually have quite a few certified engineers on staff too as well. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, so we do think we are Veeam experts. According to Veeam, we do think that we have the most Veeam engineers employed by their, as a service provider, and we have 2 Veeam architects on staff as well. And then we're also part of the Veeam Vanguard program. So taking the architects, the most Veeam engineers, and the Veeam Vanguard, we are definitely consider ourselves as Veeam experts. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about, in some earlier slides, I mentioned enhanced data protection. So this is where we're going to kind of get into this here a little bit more in detail. So why don't you just go ahead and just share? I mean, the comfort level of what you're receiving from us compared to somebody else with the extra enhancements as far as with regards to security.
Mm-hmm. We definitely sleep a lot better at night, knowing that extra layer is there. Earlier whenever you were talking about some of that ransomware or an attacker getting in and deleting your local backups and your offsite backups, to them they think they've got it in the bag, that it's payday, but
Yep.
Joke's on them. You've got this extra copy of data sitting back here. So
yep.
We're ever since COVID happened and more people are working remotely, attackers ramped up their operations. And so, we've done a lot of things internally to offer better protection for our clients, like AI-based antivirus, some phishing campaigns, and et cetera. But we wrap this EDP, or the enhanced data protection, from GDB and the Veeam solution into their managed backups. And it's just been a perfect fit for our extra security package.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about, and again, we discussed this in earlier, but Global Data Vault, as an organization, going back a few years, with the cryptocurrency and the ransomware, we just looked and said, look, we have to step up our game. We don't want to ever be the one that says, sorry, you got hacked and they got to your data, so we've developed these tools and made some partners and relationships to effectively combat those attacks, and if it was to ever happen. So let's just kind of look at the graph here. So, you have your primary infrastructure that gets backed up to that local repository, then gets transferred via Cloud Connect to that cloud backup repository. And then you can see where the enhanced data protection is where things really start happening, where we take the data, you have your repository. We essentially had that little air gap repository and an archiving. So, we call it, enhanced data protection, but it's taking Veeam inside of protection, and like I mentioned, we're also wrapping a software as a service that's monitoring that customer repository at all times. And anything malicious or a file changes, gets encrypted, they immediately kill the connection, pick up the phone, and call us. That air gap technology, that immutable backup that's being placed in that invisible recycle bin that we discussed in earlier slides, it starts building the data in files, and you can see that in the graph below the photo, the pictures, where it builds those backups recovery points in the event something like that happens. And you get your reports, so you can see that data that's being compiled under the enhanced data protection. So that, hey, if something ever happens, we have this extra layer of protection, and it's also available, of course, via the email that you look at, web-based, and of course mobile as well. So that's just some of the things that we've incorporated to better serve our customers. And I think now we're going to go ahead and open it up to a few questions. So Trista, do you want to read the questions, or are we just going to go ahead and post these in the chat?
Sorry, it's important to unmute. I'll go ahead and pose those questions out to you. I do have a few here. The first question is for both Brian and Nick. So what steps would an MSP take if there was a disaster and a failover needed to happen? Would a VPN be established between the customer and Global Data Vault in that event? And what connectivity standards are needed for a failover?
Great,
kind of a multi-part question.
Yeah, great question. It's very simple. Our business slogan has always been, it's always our problem. So in the event of something like that, we're going to spin it up. We're going to do all the networking and do a handoff. And when we do that handoff, it is also with a VPN access. So the customer, all they're required to do is just download a small VPN client. They have connectivity to their DR site. And with regards to the bandwidth, we're focused on SLA to get the data there. But in the event of a disaster, we're going to supply the resources to effectively allow them to run their production environment. So that's kind of a tricky question, but essentially everything's going to be a handoff, total interaction with Global Data Vault. The initiation process is they pick up the phone. We're going to do everything, make the handoff, supply them VPN, supply them the credentials to effectively run their DR site. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Nick, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that, in our case, the client's going to be calling us, and we know that we can reach out to GDV and have, that those resources and everything available, and then, two technology-minded people, working on this is definitely going to get it up and running for the client. So
Awesome.
I'll add one thing to that. No two recoveries really go. It's kind of the fog of war
Yeah.
mindset, right? Because it is a stressful situation, and there's a unique footprint to every kind of data loss situation. So we always are adaptive and reactive and respond and solve problems in unique ways with each incident.
Yep.
Yep, that's great. Okay, so next question for Nick. How does Technology Pointe backup endpoints like home offices or laptops through Veeam to Global Data Vault?
so we utilize Veeam Agent, and most of the time we'll send that to the local Veeam repository that we have, and then we offsite it over to Global Data Vault.
Okay. And then another question for Nick. What steps are needed to end your Colo agreement, and how far in advance should you prepare?
So we got pretty lucky. It was like the perfect storm. We had 90 days to either renew or not. We were low on storage, and we were looking to change our managed backup solution anyways. And so, having a good relationship with Will and Brian over at GDV, we felt like it was the perfect fit. And so for us, we had just the right amount of data to get it copied over and everything up and running within 90 days. But I think it really it depends on, how big your colo space is, how much data you're protecting. You really got to make that call probably 6 months to a year out and start planning. Our colo space required that we give them 90-day notice before we had to be out completely. So definitely start planning, get the conversations rolling, work out licensing and the whole solution itself.
Brian, is that how much runway you like to have too?
Yeah, he's very accurate with that. Yeah, we started about at the 5-6 month mark, having the initial conversation that they wanted to possibly get out of their data center. But I think by the time we finalized things, Nick, I believe we were about the 90-day mark, right, to get everything when we started getting everything set up, transferred, and then into the global data vault environment. So that's a good leeway time.
Okay. I have a couple questions left, and I think they're mostly for Brian. So, in terms of licensing, do I have to be all retail or all wholesale? For example, am I able to have a one-off customer that I need to bring on quickly in a referral model, but then switch the remainder of my customers later to a wholesale model?
Yeah. So I touched briefly on that because I knew, we would, possibly get into this. Yes. So it could be a mixed bag. We have some customers that have a 3-year licensing on Veeam, so they're obligated on that. And then they'll start some new customers and they'll use our MSP model. So yes, you do not have to be one or the other. It can be a mixed bag, and then again, we'll work with the customer that best fits their need. If they have those one-offs or two-offs, yes, we can make that work.
Okay, and then a little bit more of a specific question. Can you explain how we would get billed if the number of VMs or terabytes change monthly per customer or overall? Is there a standard price increase or decrease, and how do you reflect that in the invoice per customer? So a little more specific.
Yeah. So yes, so depending on the size of the environment, smaller site compared to a larger site, pricing does make a difference, but it's really focused on how many VMs are you over or above? Have you decommissioned? Have you added more? So there is a per VM count that we're obligated to pay Veeam for. So in turn, we charge the customer and then what is the footprint increase or decrease of those VMs that they've either decommissioned or added on. So it's going to really depend on the size of the site, what pricing tier they're at, because of 5 terabytes to 500 terabytes. There's going to be a pricing difference. But yes, we can go up or down depending on where they're at the time. So it is flexible.
And let me add to that, our customers have come to expect predictable invoices from us. So we don't just send out an invoice with a big surprise and say, oh, look what you used this month. We get in touch with the customer. We make sure that we're on the same page about what the size of the protected environment is before we make any changes to the invoice. It means a lot, I think, to people to know what their costs are going to be without surprises.
Yeah, great point, Will. Because we do tout fixed cost model, simplified pricing. So like Will said, if a customer has added 10 servers, we normally, the sales team will reach out to them and say, hey, we noticed that you're 10 over and a couple of terabytes. Is this legitimate? Do you want to keep these, or are you decommissioning? Is it going to be a break even amount? So we had that conversation. Like Will said, we don't want to just charge them and send the bill.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think we're going to let Will go ahead and wrap us up. Oop, hold up. Okay, well, the slides disappeared, but Will, I think you've got them. So go ahead and maybe wrap this up for us and
Sure.
take us out.
Sure. I mean, the most important message to both our MSP customers and our end user customers is that we work hard to deliver a fully managed service that is really an end-to-end solution, not just a backup solution with a retention policy behind it, but also a current environment where you can do virtual recoveries in our cloud infrastructure, where you can recover off your own environment, bring you back to operations quickly to a point that is what you'd expect to be brought back to, and do this in a super secure way, extending our security perimeter to customers' local repositories, and also providing that high level protection against all the ransomware like we talked about. We support VMware, Hyper-V, and recently we now protect Nutanix environments. We also back up Office 365 environments, and of course physical servers and workstations. All built around the mindset that it's always our problem, meaning that we're focused on what is our deliverable going to be. I want to thank everybody who helped out today. Our team is terrific and really makes all the difference at Global Data Vault. I often make the point about Veeam when we get to talk to their teams that they not only provide the best technology, but the smartest and most helpful people, and I think our cultures are aligned in that same sort of way, and that our organization is a bunch of we're lucky to have a bunch of really bright and very helpful and good folks at GDV. So I'm very thankful for that, and I don't know if I hit what was on the slide. I just kind of winged it there, but that's my conclusion.
That's great. Last thing, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to Brian or Leslie at sales@globaldatavault.com. And Nick, if people have questions for you, how can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me via email if they'd like. It's nick.scholle@tech-pointe.com, or give me a call at 469-789-2999.
Great. And also I encourage people to connect with you on LinkedIn. Both of y'all. All of y'all. Everybody.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank everybody today. This was a great session, and thanks. We'll close it out.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.